Well, it's been a long time since I last tested out Sprites, and I forgot that this deck can be prone to bricking sometimes. Nonetheless, we are going to start and try to play with a Swap Frog. The opponent ends up activating Maxi in response. And hey, you know what? That's fine in this instance because I have no extension. So we're just going to go ahead and bounce the Swap Frog back, set a card, and pass so the opponent gets no utility off of that Maxi. Unfortunately, they're on Labrynth, and this is where Labrynth can be very deadly, where I talk about it being kind of like a really top tier deck, because if you can play Imperm Ash, Maxi, right, so that's 9 hand traps, and you can disrupt your opponent to make them set up a weaker board, or you stop their play with Maxi basically, or you know, you can stop the play with Ash or Imperm too, to be honest. The opponent will kind of just be dead in the water, and then if you can set up any kind of extension play on turn 0, like what this guy did with the furniture, setting up the, I think it was welcome. I don't know why he wouldn't set big welcome here. Oh no, yeah, he did set big welcome, right? Okay, so yeah, like this is like insanely broken. So I'm like, yeah, I probably lost this match right off the bat. And they start off with the normal summon of Ariana, so we're just gonna go ahead and chain the Melfi Caddy. We did end up giving them a draw, unfortunately, because we summoned the Caddy in the end phase. We weren't gonna do that until we saw that they were on Labrynth and we're setting up turn 0. But you know, we're gonna go ahead and resolve a big chain here. Yeah, for some reason they're choosing to activate things on this chain, so we're gonna respond with things as well, obviously. So we are gonna end up drawing one off of Maxi, and again, another reason why Labrynth is good, same reason why we play Floandereeze. Doesn't really lose to Maxi. You special summon maybe once, if that, during the turn. Unless you get like all your combos off, then you know you special summon back the Stovey, then that's an additional special summon. So like 2 special summons maybe at most per turn. So you don't lose to Maxi, your turns don't end because of Maxi, and you're a trap deck, so you can choose not to play under the Maxi. Set your traps and just don't special summon. But yeah, thankfully, you know, when we brick, at least we draw some interruptions to dodge the opponent's negates and or interruptions of their own. So yeah, effects are resolving here. Yeah, unfortunately they are way ahead though. We do have the Penny set to go into Herald or the Melfi, Merry Melfis, and this is what I talked about in a very old Sprite videos when you're playing this package, is that you definitely need to be playing this Synchro 4, because there are instances like this where you would not end up going into the Herald of the Arclight, you go into the Merry Melfis instead. So yep, the opponent is going to special summon the Sylvie Torby, so at least we got draw 2 off Maxi. And this is now, if we can survive and the opponent doesn't set up like a total control board here, we can technically play next turn. Now, probably what's in the title of this video is like, count how many misplays I make here. So regardless though, the opponent is going to trigger off some effects. Yeah, they've got Welcome Labrynth in hand, they've set up the field spell off the furniture. Like, the opponent is pretty much got game at this point. There's not, it's so hard to claw back advantage once Labrynth gets its engine rolling. If you, like, Labrynth is like I don't want to say an all or nothing deck, but like, once it's rolling like this, it's like almost impossible to stop. But you have to be a smart control player in order to do that. And you have to play smart against Labrynth if you want to try to come back. Unfortunately, I make very stupid decisions here. So I start with the Imperm to force out a couple of effects. Yes, they're going to get Lady Labrynth. But yeah, I was like, oh my god, they have the second, like, did they reset this? Yeah, they reset it, right? So I'm like, oh my god, of course. And they have Eradicator. Now, thankfully, Spright doesn't really play that many spells or traps. So I make a super dumb mistake, and I play Labrynth, right? You guys know, if you watch my channel. How do I not know you're going to be bringing back the Lovely with the Labrynth, and then triggering the effect because you bounce off Big Welcome, so you're going to destroy more cards? So my called by should have targeted Lovely, obviously, but for some stupid reason, I target Stovey Torby. And I didn't actually realize it until the Lovely came back to the field, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot that they just bring it back. And they bounce back the Lovely here. Yeah, they didn't even need to bring it back off of Labrynth because they're bringing it back off Big Welcome. So yeah, even like, how stupid am I? They set D Barrier, which I'm like, okay, that's fine, I can play around that. Might I have a chance here? But of course, yeah, now they're going to go special summon, recur, pop a card. Like, this is what I mean with the Labrynth engine just being so strong. They're just going off. I don't know what, they're just clicking buttons at this point. And so this actually they shot themselves in the foot here because they exhausted all of their interruptions too early. Why would you waste your Labrynth field spell pop to pop my Called by the Grave? Like, when you had Welcome Labrynth and you could have saved it for another interruption. I think they just thought that they had game at this point because, you know, they activated Eradicator, they see my hand, they know they're popping a card. They're just like, yeah, there's nothing you can do. And I was kind of feeling the same. I was like, yep, there's nothing I can really do. I'm going to lose. But they popped the Swap Frog in my hand off of the Lovely, and now they have no more active interruptions because we know this is a D barrier that's set. They've already used Stovey Torby. They're going to summon the Ariana, get a card to hand. They've used their Lady already. They use their Lovely. So can I actually do something with this? This D barrier is not activatable this turn. Let's see. Yeah, they attempt to activate Stovey Torby again. The effect is negated too, by the way, for some reason. I don't remember why, but I think they already used it this turn. Oh, no, sorry, they didn't use it this turn, but the effect is negated. But yeah, they end up getting Big Welcome to hand. I think that was off of the Ariana. Resolution. Yeah, activate, and then they chain Stovey. Yeah, this guy makes the game very complex. I don't know why you're chaining everything when you don't need to. But anyways, we're going to normal summon the Ronin Toadin, and then special summon Carrot, and then go into Sprint, because again, we know the opponent has no more interruptions, right? The card in hand is Big Welcome. The set card is a D barrier that they set this turn. They can't do anything with it. They've used up all their interruptions. No graveyard interruptions either. So we are able to go into Sprint, dump Angler, get out Double Beaver, use Sprint and a Beaver to bring out Gigantic, and then go into blue. Now, I make a misplay here because I know that I should have, and I knew this when I played this, but I stopped to think and then I forgot. I was like, summon this, bring Gamma Burst, and I think I can go for game, right? But I make a stupid mistake and I go for starter because with the Ronin Toadin in the graveyard, I can go into like Elf and then extend and then bring back the level 2s. So I'm pretty sure I could have had 6 bodies on board and all of them boosted up with Gamma Burst. But now because I didn't do that, I have to bring back Carrot in defense. So I really kind of screwed myself. We go into Onibimaru here, which I like never use. But I'm going to pop off the Lovely to get it off field. You can't target the Lady because there's a set card, but that's fine because we're going to beat over it with the Gigantic. And now, unfortunately, I can't beat over the Ariana, so we're forced to kind of just end here. Main phase 2, we're going to go ahead and bring out the Spright Red, and then also go into IP Masquerena, because I'm thinking at this point, indestructible, untargetable Crusadia, what are you going to do against that with Labrynth? Because you have to target. And the D barrier does not affect Link Monsters. So they set a card, most likely the Big Welcome. I'm going to activate Elf, and they chain D barrier for some reason. And I'm like, that's fine, because you don't affect Link Monsters. Go ahead and call XZs. I'm not using any on your turn, obviously. But then I was like, oh yeah, shoot, they're going to get their Labrynth field spell, which is going to be able to bring a Fiend back out, and they bring out the Lovely here. And then with the level 8 Fiend, they're now going to use Big Welcome to spin back the Elf. So we're going to chain the IP to go ahead and go into the Avermax. So they could have chosen a better target, or they wanted to force out my Avermax here, or my IP. But yeah, like what do you do against this? Nothing, right? So end phase, the Onibimaru effect, they bring back the Lovely from the banished pile. And like under Eradicator, what are the odds that I draw a spell? And of course, you know, I draw starter, so I lose that unfortunately, but at least we have red in hand. So we're going to do Onibimaru again to try to bounce the Lady, or sorry, the Lovely, and they're going to chain Big Welcome and then chain Lady to activate. But I'm like, well, at this point, I can definitely go for game because, yeah, they set Ice Dragon Prison, and this is not activatable, but they will be able to pop a card in my hand. Well, they pop off of the field spell first, but look at this. The Onibimaru ends up resolving on the chain, so new chain link never happens, so Lovely doesn't end up getting a pop a card in my hand or field because it's off the field by the time the chain resolves. So that's really good. I saved my red, I saved my Gigantic, which I absolutely needed to. They're going to go ahead and activate some effects here, and I'm like, okay, now I can go for game because I can go for Jet and Gamma Burst. So I end up using Carrot to negate the Welcome Labrynth resetting itself because I'm like, there's nothing else for me to negate with Carrot right now anyways. So yeah, it's a little bit of a problem that they have 3 bodies on board, but they end up using their Stovey Torby, and I'm like, oh, do they not know I can go for game here? So they set a Big Welcome, and I'm like, that's great, just 2 Lovelies to deal with. Now I did detach my Sprint, so my Gigantic lost the attack boost, the double attack boost, but with the Gamma Burst giving 1400, I can crash it into a Lady, and I might as well because this card only has utility for being tributed off Carrot or Red to destroy, otherwise it has no more materials to detach and search. So off of Jet, like I said, I go for Gamma Burst here, and then I special summon the Red. Okay, and Crusadia will easily take out one of the Ladies, doing 3000 damage, then Gamma Burst will allow the Gigantic to crash with the other Lady, and then somehow we're able to claw back the advantage. Spright getting nerfed is like, okay, I get it. It was probably the most popular deck I saw in Master Rank, but to be honest, like, it has this potential that no matter how bad of a situation you're in, you can somehow, if you can find a way, just OTK your opponent with the Gamma Burst because it spams out those level 2 bodies. If you can get uninterrupted to that far, or play through those interruptions to get that far, you don't need a lot of complex control. You can just go for game with Gamma Burst like you saw there. So despite starting off very poorly and making several misplays, we're able to come back and take that with Spright. So with the August 31st ban list coming for Melfi Spright, how resilient is this deck going to hold up? And like I said, this is the deck I ran into probably the most in my master run, so it's widely popular, but I really don't think you'll see this deck doing well in its pure form anymore because the 1 Jet and the 1 Swap Frog really hurts this deck. Now, with tier limits also taking a hit, you probably don't need to play Bystials, especially with Kashtira gaining in popularity. The Bystials might become more bricky. So this is kind of what you're left with as a shell of a deck, and I mean at this point you might as well just be combining Spright with another engine in order to get the maximum use out of it. Tri-Brigade or for higher Runic Spright is probably your best bet, but overall I think that if you're trying to play this in its purest form, you're really going to suffer because now at this point you have less chance of seeing your Spright cards, you're relying a lot more on resolving Gigantic and stuff, and if you watch my previous videos on Spright, you know I often said that one of the things that made Spright so good and so resilient and possibly even a better deck than tier limits at a certain point, and at one point it was higher on the tier list than tier limits, and I made a video about that, capturing that snapshot, was the fact that it can play through so many interruptions. Well, you don't have that luxury anymore because now your Swap Frog engine is nerfed. Now your actual Spright engine is nerfed. The consistency of these cards has been consistently hit. So now if your Sprint doesn't resolve, you can't go as easily into Gigantic. And if your Gigantic is negated, then you kind of have no other extension. And then now you're still trying to rely on bringing out multiple interruptions off of like the Melfi of the Forest, and it's harder to do that without, you know, access to those power cards, power extenders basically. And that's what Swap Frog and Jet are, right? They are power extenders. So you could offset it a little bit by running a Dupe Frog, of course, but then you run the risk of drawing a brick. But it does the same function, right? You can Gigantic out Swap Frog, dump Dupe Frog, go into Elf, bring back Swap Frog, dump Ronin Tonin, and Ronin Tonin gets 2 potential bodies to banish and bring itself back, right? So there are options that you could do, but again, it just hits the consistency of the deck a little too much. And then with this open space here, I mean, what are you going to do? Run more hand traps? So essentially, you know, you're reaching pretty far at this point. So I think, like I said, you're better off running for higher Runic Spright or Tri-Brigade Spright because you need another powerful engine to supplement the deck at this point. So I really don't think you'll see this deck in its purest form in the ladder nearly as much, and if you do, it probably won't be as successful. Now that being said, what would a optimal for higher Runic Spright build look like post ban list? Well, this is it right here. Triple Max C, 1 Donput, 2 blue, 1 Jet, limited to 1 after the ban list, 1 red, 1 Carrot, 3 Rex, 3 Ash, 1 Beat, 1 Rafale, 2 Fossil Dig. Some people opt to play 3, you can definitely do that if you want, but I'm opting to play 2 Tactics Talent as well, 2 Runic Fountain, 1 Mayhem, and 1 Rookie, for both of them for higher, of course. 2 Runic Tip, 3 Runic Flashing Fire, 2 Runic Destruction, limited to 2 obviously, 2 Runic Freezing Curses, limited to 2, Slumber ×2, also limited to 2, 1 Smiting Storm, 1 Droplet, which you're running because you just need to see the runic cards, unique runic names, and then 1 Dispelling, and then 1 Starter, so no traps. Extra deck, 2 Hugin, 1 Jerry, 1 Mannequin Cat, 1 Gigantic, 1 IP, 2 Elf, 1 Sprint, 2 Donner, 1 Unicorn, 2 Folgo, and 1 Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, because you still have to worry about getting your extra deck ripped by something like a Unicorn, Kashtira Unicorn, or a Diablosis, so you need to run 2 of your main extenders, and the Folgo is what you're aiming to set up, right? You need Elf, you need Donner, you need Folgo, so those are your cards you need to play 2 of. You also technically need Huggin, but like if they banish 1 and you're left with 1 in your extra deck, it's enough to still get your Fountain out usually. This deck, again, does lose to Max C if you can't negate it, and you know we're not playing Called By or Cross Out, so our only negate to Max C is Ash, otherwise it's resolving against us. But to be fair, you know, you don't always have to go for the full for a higher extension, because it does special summon a lot. You can try to just end on your runic cards and see if that's enough to help you survive another turn so that you can play through that Max C, but that's why this deck might be resilient. It also has trouble against evenly matched because it doesn't really put up any board breakers, so you can pretty much wipe their whole field and they're more or less essentially forced to keep the Fountain, but you cut off all of the for higher draw power, which can be strong as well. But you know, this deck also might have trouble going second, just trying to play through interruption, because you need to resolve your fountain, and if you can't get the fountain with the Hugin or with the tip, you're going to be in trouble, and you're not going to generate the advantage you need. So this deck is by no means all powerful. I know some people were saying it's S tier, and when it goes first and then when it can play through interruptions, it definitely will be. But just be aware of those flaws, because those are things that will hold the deck back. But it will be a very good deck to climb the ladder with. You'll see a lot of people hit master rank with this deck. But in my opinion, the better runic deck, which I think I outlined in my tier list video, would be Naturia Runic at this point. And you notice how we bridged from Spright to Spright for higher Runic, now just transitioning from Runic to Naturia Runic. And the reason that this deck is very strong is because you still have Sacred Tree at 3. This is like the core dump engine for the deck. And then of course, you know, Blessing and Camellia and stuff are amazing with Cricket. So you just have a lot of utility options with this deck. It can put up multiple dynamic interruptions. If you've seen a very skilled pilot play this deck like Joshua Schmidt at Worlds, you know how powerful this deck can be. When you time your interruptions the right way, you can win. Again, not without its flaws, because any runic strategy is highly reliant on the Hugin resolving in order to get Fountain if they don't have it already. So you stop that, you can cut off a lot of their plays. But it is a very strong deck to use. But this video is getting kind of long, so let's go ahead and wrap it up. Hopefully, if you are playing Spright, this gives you something to go off of. And again, that's just my opinion on where the deck is, what you should do to transition the deck. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below if you are on Spright and if you intend to play it in Season 21. Thank you again for watching, guys. Quantum is out.